everybody, and welcome back to another live stream. Hope this finds you all well. And as ever, we have got a really fascinating guest, and we have lots to talk about. But first, before we do that, a couple of things to do. If you're watching this on Facebook, share and like it. If you're watching it on YouTube, share, subscribe, hit notifications, because naughty YouTube sometimes mysteriously loses followers from us. If you want to follow me on all my other social media platforms, they're all down below, so you know where to go. If you like what you're saying, what you're hearing, give a thumbs up. If you don't, you really shouldn't be listening, right? Then last but not least, by no means least, go over to daltonnewsmedia.net/donate, drop a pound or whatever into the hat to keep this show on the road. The other thing is, don't forget there are super chats enabled in this one. Right, without further ado, I'm really pleased, so excited to have my guest tonight with me. So can we bring on, please, our special guest, Ilana Mercer. Welcome to the stream, Ilana.
Hi, David.
Yeah, it's really good to see you. It's excellent to see you. The wonders of technology. They do. I don't know about you, Ilana. I think technology, it's double-edged. You know, there's bad things to it, but the fact it can bring people together like this is good, isn't it?
Especially like-minded people like us who are under siege now. So yeah, it's lovely to see you. And speaking to you before going on air, you put me at ease, and I feel wonderful. Yeah, thanks.
Great. Well, Ilana, as we were saying before we came on air, this is a friendly chat. So this is not your interrogational type sort of, because I'll tell you what, for years I did mainstream media as well here in the UK, BBC, all that stuff. I hated it. As you say, it's never a pleasure because they're always out to get you. You know, they don't like us. They don't like how we think. They don't like what we say. So platforms like this are at least a chance for like minds to come together, talk, and also all the many people that do enjoy the stuff that you write, Ilana, the stuff that I say. Loads of people enjoy that, you know. And here's a platform where they can see it. So can we just bring up, Ilana, because I mean you're very, as I say, a very well-established person in many regards, and I just want people to be aware of the fact that you've got some really fantastic books. Into the Cannibals Pot being, I think it's the most recent one, Trump Revolution, Broadsides, multiple books. You are very well established, obviously, author, Paleolibertarian as well, which is a wonderful expression, by the way. Where did that one come from to describe yourself as that?
That's a very old an old expression brought in by the Rockwellites and Murray Rothbard, and it fell from favor. But you know, libertarianism became very denuded of culture and civilization, and as I think. Naturally, I was always libertarian, and a gentleman by the name of Walter Block found me in Canada, and he said this strange thing to me. He said, you know, you are a natural praxeologist. You know, you are naturally distilled things analytically. That's what the Austrian thinking does. And so this is what I've been doing week in and week out. And paleolibertarianism essentially is not what I call light libertarianism, which is the Beltway type. You know, the ones that can write disquisitions on free market in kidneys, which I love. Of course I love, but that's not what I do. That's not what's going to keep the Anglo-American or Western civilization going. So a libertarian with a strong sense that the axiom of non-aggression will not survive in hospitable climes. In other words, you do need a civilization to sustain liberty. And pretending that in every heart beats a libertarian enlightenment inclination and going abroad, spreading democracy, that's not our way. We have to realize that civilization is and I think Burke believed that and wrote strongly. You know, Edmund Burke against the Jacobins, etc., and believed that once all your institutions, the church, the family, once those collapse, liberty collapses. So essentially, it's a very conservative libertarian.
Well, that's what we need. We need more. We definitely need more such. And you're right. I mean, I've got to say, at the moment, I'm so reminded of Burke's or the expression attributed to Burke. You know, those who give up. What is it? A little. Yeah.
Platoons. Yep.
And I think of the state that we're in, and I just think, gosh, I wish people had paid more attention to that. They don't understand it. But what I love about you, Ilana, what I love about your work is, as you say, it's very centered and it's very strong. And so what I wanted to chat about tonight was this article. But we'll start with this one and see where it takes us. But if we bring up, this is a brilliant title, by the way, Wussification of the West. Can we bring up the article there on the screen, just so people can see it? So you can see this over on Ilana's website, by the way, which you should bookmark and follow. But this was a good one, I thought, because it actually sums up all that's good about the way you think about things, Ilana. I mean, bearing in mind that you're going to be the audience that we go out to, it's mostly a British audience, right? So they will have heard of the Dr. Seuss, the whole Dr. Seuss being banned, being cancelled, so to speak, across in the States there a few weeks ago. And the thing about this is that it's your take on it that I was really sort of so keen that
I'm so impressed. Your producer is brilliant.
He's a man with many talents. You should get him to give you his version of Purple Rain on the guitar. That's when he comes into his own. But in the meantime, he's good at this as well. So yeah. So the thing is that
I'm more Deep Purple than Prince.
Yeah, well, of course. Well, mind you, we've had our own problems with Princes here in the UK in the past week or two.
Oh yes, you forgot to ask me a question. You're supposed to be sexist and ask me about my top, which I wore. I wore in honor of Kate Middleton. It's not that I'm in her league sartorially. I can't afford what she dresses in, but this is her favorite. My husband, I turned a certain age, I won't say which bought me a designer top by Odem, which is Kate Middleton's one of her favorite designers. And I thought I'd wear it, especially in honor of her, your British viewers and guests, and especially with a wish that when Kate Middleton comes to power, and she'll be a benevolent and beautiful queen, that as soon as Meghan Markle sets foot in Britain, that she sends her to the Tower.
Yeah, Meghan is so wildly popular over here. Oh, she's so popular. I mean, I'm sure there's a sale reserved in the Tower for Meghan and Harry.
But love David in America. She's very sympathetically looked upon. So that really shows you what I also, as someone who's a new American, a relative, I've been here for 20 years, close on 20 years, 15 years. But what struck me so is America's radical, very radical, far more radical in many ways. So
I think Meghan and Harry knew that. That's why they did the Oprah show. They weren't playing to the British audience. I don't think they care that much about us. They were playing to the American audience, and it went down well, didn't it? From what I can see.
Oh yes, I mean the Jacobin sentiment. I mean the radicalism is just so rife that Meghan is the way people think. That simplistic, boorish, uncultured, me-centered. So this is a tribute to the wonderfully refined. I'm sure she's a substantive lady, but she knows what duty and service is, and that's Kate Middleton. Beautiful too, which Markle isn't.
Well, yeah, well, absolutely. I think those are all the things that annoy Markle. Actually,
Jealousy.
It's just summarized quite neatly. But yes, thank you for that, and thank you for the fashion tribute to the UK. I'm deeply touched by that. Right, classification then. So Dr. Seuss was banned, and Tucker Carlson, didn't he? He said that Dr. Seuss, he was never a racist anyway. So, and you made the point that that's actually beside the point. So tell us more about just fill it in, because it's really interesting.
Tucker Carlson, as you know, I don't know if you have the equivalent in on your Skype or no, nothing.
No, we're all there.
you've got some good interviewers, good journalists on BBC, like Hard Talk is quite good, but very liberal. Yeah. Tucker Carlson is the only thing to look up to, a very, very wonderful gentleman on Fox News. The only person to watch in mainstream, which Fox News is. But Tucker Carlson made a contents-driven argument. He argued that he pleaded Dr. Seuss is not a racist. He addressed the contents of the material. He's not a racist. He spent his life, everything was a tribute to erase racism, blah, blah, blah. And it's possible that, Dr. Seuss was this pedagogic bore that Tucker Carlson made him out to be, but the contents of these whimsical books is not the issue. So I contended that if you are going to, the argument from freedom is always an argument from process. You do not address the contents of speeches, books, etc. You address the fact that irrespective, whether it be Mein Kampf or McElligot's Pool, which is a Dr. Seuss book, you publish irrespective of the contents. It's the process that we as conservatives are falling down on addressing.
Which I think is a brilliant point, but it's one that's not made enough. Don't you agree, Ilana, that the minute you actually start getting into the business of trying to defend or explain the content, you lose, because you've just started to play their game, and we should never, ever play their game.
Exactly. You've accepted, you're making this easy for me, you've accepted their premise. You're saying that, well, if we do detect racism, that was the premise, whether he intended it or not, that was the premise of Tucker Carlson's debate. Well, there's no racism here, and this guy's wonderful. But if we do detect racism in literature, then we should ban it. Well, then there's a case for banning, but that is not the argument from freedom. That is the typical conservative argument, the loser mea culpa argument. And they even go on to say, how do they carry on about it? It was a sort of whataboutism. Oh, please, Amazon, please, eBay, you publish and you sell Mein Kampf. Why can't you treat our Dr. Seuss the same? Well, no. That is a ridiculous need to boo-hoo sort of argument. What we have to argue is that Mein Kampf, we have to, we actually retreat and say, oh, we don't want Mein Kampf published. No, we want everything published. We are sovereign individuals. We can make the decisions for ourselves, and banning and burning books just presupposes a higher authority that decides for us which cultural products are fitting for our small minds.
Well, that's exactly the point, Ilana. And you make it very well in the article, but it's true. We are the people who will decide, do we want to read this or do we not want to read it? It's down to us. It's not for any other authorities to do so. But the problem is that, whilst I agree with everything that you've written in this, the wussification nonetheless continues. There's a lobby that wants to tell you what you will read, and therefore by definition what you cannot read. I just wanted to show you this, give you a laugh. Watch this. This slide. Bring up the next slide, please. Shakespeare, universal? No, it's cultural imperialism, writes Emer O'Toole. What a great name, Emer O'Toole. She's a real tool, isn't she? If ever there was someone who was perfectly named, it's Emer. But she thinks that, she says, though grateful to the World Shakespeare Festival for bringing such talented companies to the UK, I'd rather they perform something else. And like you say in your article, and I know you say, when will we ban Shakespeare for Othello and Shylock? But the thing is,
it's upon us, and even Wikipedia, as I call them, which actually removed an entry. I actually had an entry. I guess I'm the only Paleolibertarian columnist writing for 2 decades, week in, week out, representing a certain way of thinking consistently, but they removed it for some reason. And interestingly enough, it came from the right and the left. People told me this. But anyhow, Wikipedia was honest enough, I guess, to say that Shakespeare is the greatest writer in the English language. I would say he's the greatest writer, period, and certainly the greatest dramatist. And that was the definition of Wikipedia. So indeed, what are we going to do next? And you're telling me, I wasn't prepared for this bit of news from this tool of a woman, O'Toole. Othello, the stereotype they're in there, or Shylock. Is that to go next?
Well, this is the point. I mean, I agree. I believe Shakespeare is the greatest dramatist writer that we've ever seen. And if anyone who's even read the works of Shakespeare would understand it's a sweeping diversity of lives and stories and the human condition. And yet people like this, want to somehow judge it from a 2021 wokey liberal perspective, and then if they can, cancel it. So it doesn't end with Dr. Bloomin' Zeus. It doesn't end full stop. They will erase, I think, Ilana, fundamentally everything that they don't like, which is pretty much anything of substance.
Exactly, and it's we cannot argue contents with them, because the Western canon, there is nothing like it. I think of the Western canon. I also think of Arabian Nights. I mean, that's pretty improper, and I loved that and enjoyed, that sort of literature. And I'm sure there's Confucian literature that's improper, and all kinds of literature, and they just destroy beauty, they destroy love, they destroy inspiration, they destroy romance, and they destroy genius. And it comes probably, I don't want to, psychoanalyzing is a form of logical error too, but it clearly comes from a place of such mediocrity, of such impoverity, of such being so threatened, because what we're seeing, even I used to subscribe to Times Literary Supplement, which is one of the most wonderful book reviews ever. And now they're reviewing garbage, like you would find in the London Review of Books or the New York Review of Books. Garbage, absolute garbage. Young people can't understand what I write. They want to, especially young men, reach out to me and say, help me, I want to write the way you write. But writing, let's say the way we write, comes from having absorbed the greatest literature, using idiom, being excited by imagery that was raised by reading this amazing stuff. And there's no substitute for that. Your souls are barren. You can listen to music. What is it? It's hump along music. It's twerking. It has no chord progression. Kids are bereft of intellectual wherewithal because they're not listening to Bach. They're not listening to the Beatles. I mean, Bach, the Beatles. I'm a progressive rock fan. My husband's a progressive rock guitarist, as your producer is. But and I was brought up by a very strict rabbi who recently passed on, and he used to say to me, while in our home, Friday was ours. We as kids had to sit and endure. And today an American parent wouldn't put a child through that because that's very traumatic, of chamber music, Bach. And my dad would conduct furiously. And once he approached me and he said, Ilana, I think I was maybe 10 or 12, Bach was really God. And that was from a rabbi, an Orthodox rabbi. And so when you take this away from young minds, what you have is IQ, which is, you see in the manipulation of technology, but nothing else, no inspiration. And seriously, even Charles Murray's book about human achievement, what is the title of the book, if you recall? It details human achievement throughout the ages. Since the 1950s, it really has dropped in terms of music, literature, etc.
Oh, yeah, it has. I think it's plummeted over the I think it's plummeted since the rise of the internet, curiously. if you go back to the late 90s and then into the noughties and the last 20 years, it's so obvious that something very bad is happening. And it is like classical culture, greatness. It's not relevant anymore because it's not woke, and it never can be. It's a bit like you said, in I think in the article as well. If you cannot judge things in what somebody wrote 400 years ago from today and judge you can't do it. But the left, the especially the woke lefties, they do want to go back and cleanse the canons because they don't fit in with their current ideology. But I find there's something so toxic and dangerous about that it really does need called out, Ilana.
Yeah, and I do feel that we need to call them out on their stupidity, their idiocracy. We have to make people watch that film, The Idiocracy. Have you seen that?
No,
That's
I haven't.
Brilliant, a Mike Judge film that was actually very downplayed when it came out about 10 years ago. It is about the idiocracy, where you see, we have garbage avalanches. We can't deal with anything, culturally bereft. But I do believe we have to argue not contents, but we have to just make the point that this is a illiterate, sub-intelligent elite that has taken over. And in fact, I don't understand why parents are so exercised about their kids not being at school. Take the opportunity to secede from the schools that have brought us thus far. You said the last 50 years. Well, my most intelligent readers are people of a little older than us, but people who have gone through the public school education when canon and curriculum were in place. Yeah. When there wasn't social studies, when there was math, when there was history, and these are the people that are most, and when they did do Shakespeare and all the classics, and these are the people that are most able to grasp and grapple with matters. But we really do have to secede institutionally, and that's why I don't understand why the desperation to get back to school. This is the chance COVID has given parents, I know that they are so embattled in terms of having to hold down 2 jobs, what with the Federal Reserve and the printing and all, and their money worth nothing. But secede from schooling, find community where you can educate children with canon and curriculum. And there's some wonderful resources that you can actually go back to these things and enrich your children. And the thing about America that is so devastated education and children is that everything has to be fun, Yeah. And nothing that is fun is worth learning unless you're a genius. You have to work at it, right?
Right.
I'm not good at math. I had to work at math to get, I did well, but I had to work at it. Things that come easily to me are things analytical, philosophical, but fun, this whole emphasis on the culture of fun also has to stop. Kids have to work to get, to absorb things of beauty. And my father, I might have cussed at him at the time when he made me listen to, Schubert's chamber music, but I'm so grateful today because I can appreciate the beauty.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are the things that endure. Everything that's worthwhile does require a bit of work. But I've got another one to bring up. Can we bring up another image here to share with Ilana? Just if we can. This was another one. This is prevalent here in the UK, and I'm not sure what it's like with you, but it's about diversity, Ilana. So having diverse reading lists, no threat to Shakespeare. And this black student studying English literature is concerned because when he was studying English literature here in the UK at university, there wasn't sufficient authors with his ethnicity that were being studied. So he was concerned about this. And again, it has to be said, this comes from the same publication that gave us Emer O'Toole. So no surprise there, Ilana. This is with these. But again, in the name of diversity, it's deconstructing everything. I believe, don't you? That because it's a nonsense argument that he's put forward. But this is the sort of stuff that they
But it's an argument one shouldn't even address. One should go straight away to process again. Wussification. That's our culture. We love it, absorb it, and work with it. That's it. I mean, you go to China and say, oh, I don't see myself reflected around in the billion or so people. And the Han culture is nationalistic, patriotic, imperialistic, and they are, in fact, The Economist. I actually subscribed to your publication, The Economist, a while ago, detailed that China was contemplating opening the country more to immigration, and some women threatened to jump off the wall if they were forced to marry men not of their own ethnicity or race. So it comes down to this wussification, and we should say that wussification is an amalgam of wimp and pussy, right? And this is the white Anglo-Saxon, the worst enemy. And I do go through that in one of my books. I think it's the Cannibal book, how that sort of mentality certainly has brought down at least, the civilization at the tip of Africa, where I was born, South Africa. So it comes down to wussification, David. We can't entertain his argument that he has to see, in order to appreciate, look, if Shakespeare were black, it wouldn't matter to me. No. If Bach's cantatas were singing pornography off the way that the hip-hop does, because of the music, the exquisiteness of the music, I would sort of wouldn't sit well with me, but I would appreciate the exquisiteness of the music. So, if, as I say, if Shakespeare were black, it wouldn't matter to me. It's the genius, it's the beauty, and we have to concentrate on arguments from process.
And this is the essential point, and that's what I really want to get out. As you say, it doesn't matter to people like you and me, and I'm sure many of the people who will watch this, Ilana, what skin color he had, or whether he was gay or straight. None of that stuff matters. It's totally irrelevant to the work, as you say. It's by the by. But yet the wokeists, they latch on to all these things, and they're trying to get, the perfect author, the right skin color and the right sexual preferences, whatever it is. And that distills down to garbage, doesn't it?
It always does, and it always brings down everything to mediocrity and institutional rot, when all you do is want to, to stage your institutions to look racially and gender-wise, to look proper. But
well, that's the thing, actually, on the gender. That's the other thing here in the UK. I mean, we've got obviously so many, certainly historically, like the Bronte sisters and people like that. But again, they're trying to get a curriculum which is gender balanced, sexual preference balanced, and it's impossible. But yet that is at the soul of academia in 2021, which is why I have such a problem with academia in these times.
Yes, and certainly a point we often hear, at least Tucker has brought this to mainstream, is that the Ivy League, the American Ivy League, is no longer Ivy in any way. I don't know if your, Cambridge and Oxford, etc., and Eton have maintained their standards, but the garbage that is coming out of Harvard and Princeton and so on and so forth is manifestly a result of this institutional rot and this wussification, whereby we concede the argument, we give them the argument, and you hear Republicans saying things like, "Oh, we're so diverse, we're a large tent," No, they're a large tinfoil hat. That's what they are.
Yeah, but you're right, and you see, you cannot. You should never play by their rules. That's one of the great things about your writing, Ilana. You clearly don't. You never have done, actually. But I only wish more people understood that, because the second you try to divert away and to try and deal with all these wussified issues, then you're almost as bad as some of them. But I do laugh at the fact that there are wokeists out there who cry about the fact that the Shakespeare, he was a racist. And in a way it makes me laugh. It does, because it's so ludicrous and so pathetic. But when the people doing that are university lecturers and professors in British universities, that's a concern for the people who then are at their tender mercies.
maybe I'm a true libertarian, but I don't give a damn who's a racist, who's an anti-Semite. As long as your myths stop at my face, I'm fine with the way you think. And if your product is brilliant, I mean, they say Wagner wasn't the nicest person. I don't like his music in particular, but so what? So what if he was a racist? So what if Nietzsche was untoward towards certain? I mean, everything that was great in our past is fraught with natural human instincts and proclivities. We are naturally inclined towards our tribes. Are we racist? I don't know if that's racist. So long as we don't perpetrate the libertarian way, so long as we don't perpetrate violence and we treat people on merit. And the one thing that I know that you will appreciate, because you and I really get on well, is that the conservatives have begun to sing the mantra that we have to look for a merit-based society, not a race-based society. But what they're not taking the argument to its logical conclusion. A merit-based society is going to reflect individuals and peoples in different ways that are displeasing, right? Yeah, and that's what they're not. Look, who built America? I don't know, Scottish engineers, white engineers. I mean, engineering. Sorry, white guys do engineering really well. They're brilliant. They're brilliant. I mean, who invented the gin, the cotton gin? Who made his American industrial might? I hope you're not put off air because of what I said, but things are going to be reflected differently. And as I said in this, I think it was the article, Systemic Racism or Systemic Rubbish. I mean, if we're going to go by proportional representation, maybe we should say, well, hey, the 100-meter dash is dominated by black males. I want to see small Jewish guys run the 100-meter dash. No, I don't. I want to see Usain Bolt. I'm a great fan of track and field. Track and field is not very popular here, but that's my passion. I want to see Usain Bolt. I don't want to see a small Jewish guy run the 100-meter dash. I'm Jewish, so I can say this.
Do you think there is such a thing as systemic racism?
No, I mean, as I said, that it's an abstraction. It's a totally meaningless construct. You'd have to really operationalize it to test it. But racism, first of all, is a thought crime, or is a well, it's a thought crime, as I said in that article. And thought crimes or impolite and impolitic thoughts are nobody's business in a free society. So, and for all the rest, we have laws against what happened when they said, racism, when Officer Chauvin was his name, put his leg on George Floyd's neck. That was racism. No, that was police brutality. We have laws against that. That was a leg on a man's neck. So it's very easy for me to make the argument that racism, we have laws for all the rest. Racism is a thought crime, is purely a thought crime, and nobody in a free society should be hindered, fired, doxxed, assailed for thinking, speaking, tweeting improper and impolite thoughts. So institutionalized racism, is there such a thing? Look, I think I said in this column, I think working from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's famous fictional character, we derive it by reasoning backwards. If B, then A. If blacks are underrepresented in certain institutions or in certain spheres or in science or etc., then we infer racism, and that's a logical error. Because reasoning backwards is, as I think, he said, applies with reasonable certainty when there's only one plausible explanation for the evidence. So there are many plausible explanations for why underrepresentation. And therefore, how we derive racism is from the very logically fraught idea that people should be represented and should achieve economically on all indices in proportion to their numbers in the general society. And that is a problematic way of reasoning, isn't it?
Oh, it absolutely is, yeah. But the thing is also that to accuse someone of the thought crime of racism is now in 2021, Ilana, it's so powerful. I mean, I was removed from Twitter for making a racist statement. I didn't make anything racist, not a word about it. But what? And I'm not going to even defend myself because there's nothing to defend. But it's become so powerful that the conservative movement are petrified of being called more racists, and so it is, unfortunately, I think the word racist, and that, which is a thought crime, it's kind of winning a war at the moment in terms of the culture wars. What do you think?
Yeah, it's petrifying. I mean, it's the reason why Southern Poverty Law Center has an article about me, a Jewish woman who I think I'm an individualist. I'm a methodological individualist. I'm not a racialist. Do I believe? Look, what does social science do? Social science takes representative samples. Science does this. Medical science does this. Takes representative samples from the general population and draws conclusions from that. Are those invalid? No, they're not invalid. And to state those conclusions that certain people do this and other peoples are inclined this way, this is what the social science does. So I'm an individualist. I look at people as they are. But is this a weapon? It is a wicked weapon, and people are being pushed to the floor. Good people are being pushed to the floor. How do we fight it? All I know is that conservatives have not fought it. Republicans have not fought it.
No.
They have not gone bravely against the deep tech. I call them the deep tech, as bad as the deep state. Our president, Donald Trump, was removed from Twitter with 82, how many million followers? That was not fought. That was not fought. We go gently into that night, and we're not fighting. And to give the left, it's to compliment them. Their ideas are awful. Our ideas are quite good, most of them. But we don't fight for our ideas, and we fight in ways that always concede their argument. Oh, look, we've changed. Look, we're so good. Look, we've opened. We've got a wider tent. We're choosing the best people for the job. We never argue substance. We never argue principle. But they fight. They go off. They believe they have very bad ideas, and they fight for them ruthlessly. And for that, I guess they have to be admired.
I agree. They don't particularly compromise on their toxic ideologies. They're quite. They don't, and they don't necessarily. They don't say compromise. Whereas all I see on the conservative right side of the spectrum is this embarrassing, cringy desire to find common ground. I'm not really bothered about finding common ground. I have my views, and those are my views. Take them or leave them. I don't care. That's how it should be, shouldn't it?
Exactly. And we are upstanding people. We are not criminals. I mean, this whole January 6th thing is ridiculous. Look at what happened, is still ongoing in Portland and Oregon. Businesses, private property was destroyed. People were devastated through these Black Lives Matter, and we even exported it to your country.
Oh, here.
Okay.
Yeah, we did.
Absolutely foreign to you, and suddenly you are all having to come to grips with this strange ideology and people speaking in tongues in Britain. So such destruction and such damage and such toxicity, and we have one ragtag bunch of MAGA, patriots storm the citadels of power, and according to the libertarian ideology, and I'm speaking for libertarians, at least the hardcore ones, we will always be on the side of those who protect private property. I mean, going against the state is far less of a offense. In fact, it's not an offense because we, view the state as a source of oppression, right? And often
Yes.
an illegitimate entity. But Black Lives Matter and Antifa destroyed their neighbors' property, and they made old ladies get down on their knees and say humiliating mantras. This is pure evil.
You're right. You're right. And actually, your column on the January the 6th riots is another essential read, by the way, everybody. So do make sure you go and have a read of that. Because again, it's a perfectly valid analysis from your perspective of Ilana of what happened. But again, did you not find it was embarrassing to see the way conservatives were falling over themselves to distance from everything that happened? I mean, on January 6th.
Climbing over one another just to condemn this ragtag bunch of mostly men, older men, because the young people have been indoctrinated. Older men, is it right what they did? But no, certainly according to, I just had enough, and I came out with a hardcore libertarian perspective on January 6th, which is hilariously has become the Democrats' 9/11. I mean, these people have erected barriers not around our businesses. I live, you asked where I am. I live, close to Seattle, which used to be a beautiful city. Nobody goes into Seattle any longer. So, I mean, and conservatives have said nothing. That's the thing. That's the dilemma now. And I would say GOP RIP, because we gave them the presidency, and my last book was a book about Trump. We gave him the presidency, both chambers. They controlled the gubernatorial scene. And we got nothing. We're still, for me, speech is very important, as is for you. I mean, you make your living doing this. It's very important for us to be able to speak our mind. We hurt nobody. Switch off if you don't like us. We need to publish our books. And the conservatives, I don't know what they've done your way across the pond, but stateside they've done nothing for us. And this is the great dilemma we should be having in the United States. We shouldn't be going back to the old debates. I can find columns that I've done on immigration going back to 2005, and they are reiterating the same influx issues, the same dilemmas that we have now. Nothing has changed. It's like, the pundits and the politicians, they say that when sharks lose their teeth, a new row comes forward. So elections come, a new administration is in, the pundits and the policymakers move forth, and they just carry on with the same shtick, with the same act.
Well, they do.
And it is up to us to realize that, as you say, culturally, David, we've reached a tipping point, and we have to make qualitative changes in the way we think and what we do.
I completely agree. You mentioned BLM, Ilana. So the way they successfully exported their way of thinking here in the UK. I mean, in a city called Manchester, they've got a big tribute up to George Floyd in a northern English city. And I just think that it's laughable at one level, but it was put there, and the mayor thinks it's a great idea and whatnot. And so a country like the UK, which we have not had the same racial issues as the States had historically, that is to say. So there's not really been an issue. But BLM has done more to damage race relations in the UK than anything that we've had, in my view, Ilana. So again, it's like their movements have such pernicious and nihilistic and divisive outcomes. I don't want the societies, people hating each other. I don't want that. I want people to get on, live their lives, do what they want to do, and not be pestered or harassed, or, as you said, in some of the US cities, have your business reduced to ashes. And yet, but as you said, that all happened last summer. Yeah, that was fine. Meanwhile, Capitol building, it's 9/11 part 2. I mean, honestly, it's some kind of mindset that accepts those kind of things.
Yeah, and as you say, the Conservatives have not put up a fight, and it's up to us to realign now, to realize that we gave them the reins of power, and, we got nothing for it. We can't go back to the same debates and the same arguments.
No, no. Well, I hope, Ilana, going forward, when I look at the GOP, yeah, I think it's pretty worthless. As and I look at all those at the top of it, and they've seamlessly moved beyond Trump, haven't they? I mean, it's as if he was just a bad memory.
Well, we do have some good people, but I'm not going to hang my hopes any longer. I was so hopeful with Trump. I wrote this book, The Trump Revolution, the Donald's Creative Destruction Deconstructed.
Yeah.
And it was based primarily, I think, on a concept that's held up fabulously, because what he did is he, just like Samson, he brought the house down.
Right.
Whether he was consistent, whether he did things right, his policies, he Ivanka, he gave in to his daughter and he gave in to his son-in-law, but he just exposed the deep state, the deep tech for what it was, and he really shook things up. And I think that's something that he did do. And there are some people in Congress that are trying to maintain that stance, but I don't think it's going to help. I think the tipping point has arrived. We let into the country the equivalent of a small state annually, about 1 to 2 million people, mostly Democrat voters. And so there has to be a realignment but this is for another time, you and I.
We can sort that. We can sort that.
That's a big topic. GOP RIP for certain.
Yeah, that would be a good one, actually. Yeah. But actually, over here in the UK, Ilana, it's very similar insofar as the so-called Conservative Party isn't remotely conservative. The only thing they seek to conserve is their grip and power. And that's not the same, that's got nothing to do with conservatism. So it is kind of depressing over here as well. When I look into the political body and I see a void, I see nothing. I see a menace, but, the last 12 months under lockdown and all that kind of stuff has magnified things. I think it's also redefined politics as well, to be honest. I don't know if you think about that over your way.
Well, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. A realignment. We realize that just like the shark's teeth fall out, and a new guard comes in and begins repeating the same shtick, the same theater on television, whether it's Sean Hannity, everybody except Tucker, and the same thing on you. Immigration. Well, we've been arguing immigration for 20 years. We've been arguing the welfare state for 20 years. The welfare state is not even an issue when you have how many trillions of debt? I don't know, 28 trillion of debt, and you're looking to Bitcoin to maintain your assets. No, so I think a total realignment. Your culture is in fragments. You are being accused as a Trump voter of being a racist just because you voted for Trump, just because you have pride in whence you come. And frankly, the French prime minister is a hero for saying statues are never coming down in France. When you look up to Macron, you find yourself in a sort of desperate position. But the Anglo-American axis of evil is really shown itself over. COVID has exposed things, and Trump certainly has. I don't think your prime minister is in any way as powerful as Trump to expose anything. In fact, he's. I even like Theresa May. At least she spoke English well. I liked her better than he.
No, but Boris Johnson is a disgrace to the UK. And actually, it's interesting as well, because no sooner did Trump lose, because he lost the election, because we're on YouTube and Facebook. But no sooner had Trump lost than Boris Johnson was immediately congratulating Biden. I found that as a Brit humiliating, actually. But then again,
and Putin didn't. Putin, the Russian menace, the Russian monomania. Putin didn't congratulate Biden. Netanyahu congratulated Biden, but not Putin.
Well, actually, today, interestingly, I saw a tweet today from Putin as well. I think it was today or yesterday, basically saying, Ilana, that he believed it was up to every individual to choose whether or not they would have a vaccine. Now, that contrasts with here in the UK, we're being pushed, get the vaccine, shut up, take the vaccine. And I'm now seeing Putin taking a much more enlightened view than us. And I'm thinking, what a world, what a time to be alive, Ilana.
Yeah, definitely another topic for conversation is the Russia monomania, and how we've completely, sort of there's this debate, this radicalism in American foreign policy, this Jacobinism, whereas there's such a strong tendency among the elites towards China, whereas post-communist Russia and East Europe is reactionary, is conservative, is nationalist, is not exactly friendly to Islam and to mass migration. Natural allies of at least the Trump movement. And there's the debate going on here with not even saying the China virus. So
I know. Yeah, I think it's a topic for another time, and I'd love for you to come back on, because one of my
I'm going to be a regular, because you and I we see eye to eye.
Well, the China thing is a topic I've been banging on about for quite a while, and the fact that I see it as one of the biggest, if not the existential threat to everything. And some might, and there's different nuances to that. But the way that America in particular, but even here in Europe, it's Russia. Russia is behind it. Everything it's Russia. And it's dangerous. I think it's such a dangerous illusion that we pursue, and we forget about China, or maybe we're encouraged to forget about China. I don't know, Ilana, but certainly there are big topics in this world. But hey, listen, we've taken up enough of your time, and I hope you've enjoyed this experience here on the stream.
I have loved it. Thank you, and I'd love to come back again soon.
Right. Well, Ilana, you'll be very welcome back. But that's it, folks, from us for tonight. Do make sure you let us leave your comments in the thread below. Do make sure you follow Ilana on all her various platforms. We'll have those links in below as well. Make sure you read her stuff, not just the Wussification of the West, but actually her whole canon of work, which I've been reading for 20 years. It's helped make me what I am. So there we go. Ilana Mercer, thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for the stream, and I'll be back with you real soon. That's it for now. Bye, everyone.